What is up, you guys? We are back yet again with another awesome film. And today's movie opens by showing us stacks of bodies in their incubated form with oxygen masks on their faces. Vincent drives through a restricted gate and into the city, and he arrives at a secure building where he has to use his fingerprints to enter. He identifies himself as an insurance agent in the death insurance sector and is then granted access. In another scene, death specialists are removing a cadaver from her bed, and they remove the body and put it in transportation trucks. The city's enforcers are apprehending individuals on the street for suspicion for assisting people off themselves and manipulating vital signs. They start performing identity checks, and one of the enforcers checks the recent cadaver's body and orders his team to initiate emergency resuscitation and life support. He also orders the body to be put in a vegetative state, and one of the men yells out to his dead mother and for them to leave the body alone, but is then restrained. In a conference room, Vincent is preparing an automated presentation. He informs Mr. Coroner that if people die without paying their debts, they are kept in a vegetative state until they pay it off. People have capacities that can be activated after a natural death, even if their organs and motor functions are useless. For example, the brain can be used as a storage system. Vincent explains that it's impossible to entirely eliminate the risk of dying without debt, but Mr. Coroner can do that by purchasing death insurance. Lisa travels on a motorbike to a secret location, and she and her teammates gather. She goes through a bar and down to the basement where she meets Gerhard, and she tells him that Chris and Frank have been captured, and he tells her that he already knew, but Lisa is sure that somebody betrayed them. Gerhard tells her that nobody knew about the operation, and that he was worried about their captured friends because they might be pressured into talking. Lisa wants to rescue them, but Gerhard is skeptical because he knows that he'll never be able to get in without proper identification. Lisa then leaves, explaining that her contact was out there and that she couldn't leave them alone. In the bar, Philip offers to buy Lisa a drink to celebrate seeing her. He gives her the identification she asked for, but he was only able to procure level 2 clearance IDs. And Lisa tells him that she needs level 3. Philip negotiates with Lisa that if he can get her those IDs, she could go with him to the parallel society. She then agrees, and he tells her to give him 2 days. Meanwhile, Vincent is having another meeting with a potential client, Mrs. Hoffmannsthal. While they're dancing, he tells her that she doesn't want to end up in storage, and he explains to her that the first woman from the first generation of people who were put in storage was 102 years old and won't be detached from the tube for another 80 years. He tells Mrs. Hoffmannsthal that he wants her to have peace when she dies, and she agrees to get the insurance. Vincent returns to his office and is then congratulated by one of his colleagues for closing the deal. He asks Vincent to swap profiles with him because he feels like all the ones he receives are useless, but Vincent tells him that the profiles aren't to blame. Vincent then goes to speak to Diana, who also congratulates him on his success. He asks her why everybody was so tense, and she tells him that datasets were manipulated, and he assumes that there may have been a mole. She tells him that perhaps their outside informants are at risk and to keep the information she gave him to himself. In their secret base, Lisa and her team plan a power outage so the insurance companies won't be able to utilize the dead bodies anymore. They discuss the need for a person to be inside the building so they can turn off the backup generators, and Lisa informs them that she's getting level 3 clearance just for that purpose. On his way to the office, Vincent is rammed by a black van, and when he gets to his workplace, he informs Diana of the incident, and they're sure that it was activists. Vincent is taking an employee assessment regarding the risk leak in the company, and he's asked to answer various questions in regards to his views when it comes to human life. They welcomed his request for promotion, but they feel like it would mean he was not content with his job, therefore he was unable to do the work to their satisfaction. They inform him that if his request was not granted, he would be demoted, and he agrees. The next day, Vincent goes to work and sees Philip, who tells him that he's back, and a voice announces the arrival of profile manager Diana, and everyone gets up from their seats to applaud. She announces the demotion of a longtime employee, Dietrich, the same man who asked Vincent for a swap. Meanwhile, Lisa goes to Philip's house when he doesn't show up for their appointment. She asks for Philip on the comm device outside his apartment, but a voice from inside informs her that there was no one by that name. She then finds a way into the building and knocks at the door of the apartment, but Dietrich answers the door and tells her that she's got the wrong house. His wife also informs her that they just moved in and that they would like to unpack in peace. Lisa then leaves the couple and goes back to the car where Gerhard was waiting. They wait for Dietrich to leave the apartment, and Lisa starts following him to see see if there's a connection between him and Philip. Dietrich goes into the night market and to the street death insurance stall where he asks to transfer a death policy to his unborn child. He then weirdly walks to a bridge and jumps off while Lisa watches in shock. Vincent and Diana were in the office discussing a new prospective client, Vladimir, who was assigned to Dietrich. Diana tells Vincent that he needs to close this deal, and Vincent goes through the profile of the prospect to see that he has a daughter called Lisa. Lisa goes to Dietrich's house to speak to his wife, and she's very curious whether Dietrich was in trouble, but his wife tells her that he was just demoted. She also tells her that the company only assigned him to clients that they knew wouldn't sign, and she blames the company for her husband's death. The next day, Vincent goes to Vladimir's house to pitch his insurance sale, and he's invited in by the butler, and while walking around, he hears Lisa talking to her father. He eavesdrops and then returns to the other room when he hears Lisa coming his way. Vincent is invited to the garden where Vladimir was watering his plants, and during his presentation, Vincent uses Lisa and her questionable ties to the activists to push Vladimir into the deal, but fails when Vladimir is adamant about not being blackmailed. Vincent leaves the residence unsuccessful and informs Diana, and as per his agreement, Vincent is demoted back to level 1 and is informed that he will not be receiving salaries anymore, only commissions. He then heads down to the lab so they can give him shots that would protect him against sensory impressions that would cause culture shock. Vincent heads down to his new workstation, which was apparently a junkyard. He is given a car and an operating system gives him directions on where to go. He then arrives at his new apartment, which was a small dingy place. He follows the leads given to him and he heads down to the bar where Lisa and her team's base was at. There he meets Lisa and he tells her that he was demoted because he couldn't close the deal with her father. She doesn't really feel pity for him, and later Vincent waits for her outside and follows her discreetly as she makes various stops. The next night, Vincent returns to the bar and watches Lisa perform. Later that night, Lisa sets up camp on the building in front of Vincent's apartment and she spies on him. She then calls him and invites him over for a business date. She offers to buy her father's death policy, but Vincent doubts that she has the funds for it, and then she offers to agree to get the insurance and convince her father to do the same, but Vincent tells her that she was already insured, which she's shocked to hear. Lisa transfers her death policy to her sick friend Christopher so his body doesn't get taken by geriatrics. The next day, Diana contacts Vincent and informs him that Lisa had transferred her policy to someone else, and she also informs him that Vladimir had gotten into a car accident and had killed a child in the process. She tells him that Vladimir's accounts have all been halted until further notice, and Diana warns Vincent not to make any more mistakes with Lisa if he hopes to come back to work as a closer, and she tells him to gain Lisa's trust and get closer to her and deliver results. Vincent, a bit intoxicated, drives to Lisa's apartment to speak to her. He tells her that she'd given him the impression that she was transferring her policy to her father, but Lisa tells him that she had a friend that needed it more. Lisa then pulls him inside the house and starts kissing him, and one thing leads to another, and they end up doing it. Later, Vincent gets up to find his keys, but Lisa asks him to stay, so he gets back into bed with her and he falls asleep. While he sleeps, Lisa scans the chip in his hand and gives him access to the building. Vincent is called back to the lab for another shot, and Diana isn't happy about the methods that he's using to gain Lisa's trust, and they'd already been aware that Lisa had scanned his chip. Lisa had rescued her father from geriatrics and brought him back to their safe house, but Gerard is unsettled by this act because he thinks that it will lead the company straight to them. Lisa tells Gerard that she's sure that she can get Vincent on their side to help them. Vincent and Lisa sleep together again, but this time, Vincent stays awake as Lisa sneaks out and he follows her outside. He sees the safe house and inside her father in a vegetative state. As he was trying to leave, Lisa appears in front of him, but before they can talk about anything, the team that acquires the bodies that still owe debts arrive and they take her father's body. Vincent hides Lisa and tells her not to get them arrested, and upset, Lisa spits on his face and walks away. Later, Lisa takes Vincent to the facilities where they store and utilize the bodies. She tells him to go and see what's happening in person, and Vincent goes down to the trucks as they're loading all the bodies from the car, and he sees his old colleague Dietrich, and Vincent is very disturbed by this. He and Lisa drive back to her apartment, and as they lay in bed, Lisa asks him to stay there with her and to leave the prospect of returning to the parallel society. Vincent tells her that he wants to be part of what she's working on, and the next day, he takes out all his money and closes his account. He He then goes to see Dietrich's wife and tries to give her some money, but she refuses. Vincent then transfers his death policy to Lisa, and Lisa and her team go ahead with the plan to sabotage geriatrics. Lisa sneaks into the company building and sabotages the backup generator, and Vincent finds out what she was doing and goes there to help her. Lisa gets captured by Philip while trying to sabotage the control center, and he takes her to see her father's body hooked up to the machine. When they get there, the doctors inform Philip that the insurance has been transferred to Vladimir by his daughter and that he can die. And Vincent tries to save Lisa, but Philip shoots both him and Lisa. Later, Diana approaches Vincent and tells him that he did well, and he asks about Lisa, but Diana leaves without giving him an answer. Vincent goes to the storage area and finds Lisa's body in a vegetative state, ready to be a surrogate. He carries her body out of the building into the lake, and the movie ends as Vincent floats Lisa's body in the water. And this is how today's movie wraps up, boys and girls. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and most of all, subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you guys on my next recap. Bye!